Good morning, it's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and I'm back with another example of real-time inner healing work that we can do throughout the day to help ourselves. So if you haven't seen my last video about real-time inner healing work, please go back and watch it. But I just want to recap it, okay? So recapping the real-time inner healing work is when we feel an emotion or symptom rising to the surface, an emotion like frustration rises to the surface, we step back, we take a breath, and we detach from it. We become aware of our feelings instead, our emotional state. What is actually happening? What feelings are we feeling? And we allow ourselves to feel them all. Okay, now we ask ourselves, what two parts of ourselves are at war with each other in order to feel this feeling? This emotion? What two parts that are at war are causing me to feel this emotion? And then you find the two parts of yourself that are in opposition to each other. One is dominant and one is being suppressed. We look at that part that's being suppressed and we call it back to ourselves. We brainstorm ways to integrate this part back to ourselves. How can we call it back? How can we honor this part? What can we do for it to make it be seen, heard, felt, experienced? How can it be okay? Once we do that, we don't want to lose the dominant part either. It's been there for a reason. It's helpful. It's something that we want. We don't have to now suppress it in favor of the other part. How can we make them become equal partners? How can we let them become friends in this journey together? How can they complement each other? What can we do? How can we go back and forth to allow both traits their needs to be met, right? Both parts of ourselves. So that's the process. And then we try it. Then we put it into action, into practice. And that's how we integrate. That's how we become whole again. And that's how we, piece ourselves back together in real time, right? As opposed to doing all this work, past work and other work. We can do this in real time as we go along our day. Okay, so let's take another example today. Let's take an example of a symptom this time, a physical symptom. So let's say it's pain, okay? You have some pain rising and you push it down. You don't realize you're pushing it down, but you are. You're coping with it. You're pushing it down. You're living life in spite of the pain because you have obligations. You have people that you don't want to see the pain or to have to witness the pain. You want to ignore the pain. You want it to go away and you want to push through. And you don't want to be seen as less than, right? Or you just don't want to show that face. So you push down the need to be soothed, right? And your pain is rising as you are going throughout your day because now you feel guilty. Guilty, perhaps, about not really being present with the people in your life because you're more present with the pain. The pain is winning this war, right? And you're not present anymore. And you're coping, you're dealing with it, you're pushing it down, you're trying to get through with the pain, and then suddenly, perhaps you've done all that you can do. You have young children, so you're managing your day, not showing your kids the pain, right? Being the martyr, carrying the pain with you, sheltering them from the pain, and suddenly they go to bed. And then you just lose it. You start to cry. You give all of your pain now to your spouse or your husband, and you just let it out, right? So what is happening here? In that moment, you're just crying. You're saying how unfair it is. Why should you live with the pain? You want your life back. You can't handle it anymore. You can't do this another second. This isn't living, etc., which is all true. But in that moment, we need to be able to stop, step back. You're not the crying. You're not that victim. You're not that thing that is carrying you over, that is embodying you right now. You need to be able to step back and become aware. So it's just an overwhelming emotion that will pass. Okay, so we detach from that moment so that we become aware that we are more to this, and we sort of step outside of the story so that we can consciously take a look at what's actually happening rather than continue to stay and spiral in that story. Once we do that, we say, okay, what is the emotion that's bringing Sorry about that. Okay, so we step out of our pain. We step back out of this emotional roller coaster that we're in. We become aware, and then we say, what is this emotion? What is this emotion that we're feeling right now? It's frustration, it's grief, it's sadness, it's fear that we're never going to get out of this pain. It's loneliness, it's isolation, it's that maybe that we feel nobody will ever understand it, that we will have to live alone with this forever because we can't share it and scare our little children. So we have to hold it in, and there's nobody, maybe, you have all these feelings about it. So you let yourself feel those feelings, right? Of the emotions behind the pain. And then you stop and you say, okay, you get the emotion and you say, now what two parts of myself are at war with each other in order for this emotion to rise to the top? What are the warring parts that make me feel this emotion, feel this way? And maybe you decide that the warring parts in this case are, you decide that the parts in this that are at war with each other are the need to be taken care of and told everything's going to be okay and helped and be the center and be able to express, right? And then the other part of you is the part that needs to be grown up, that needs to handle it, that needs to be tough, right? So the tough and the vulnerable parts of yourself are at war with each other in this aspect, let's say, that are causing you to feel this victimhood, this pain, this crying in your life. So we say, okay, how can the vulnerable part, the part that needs care and love and that needs to talk and express and tell their story and tell their pain and be taken care of and be comforted and soothed and told everything's going to be okay, this vulnerable child, basically this wounded child that needs its mother to swoop in and comfort it and tell it it's going to be okay and allow it to cry. Allow it to cry, allow it to hurt, right? Allow it to wallow or to have that fit, to just cry and be however it needs to be, right? With the adult part of you that needs to be grown up and suppress and need to be tough and toughen up and no pain, no gain, and take it on and be the warrior, right? So this tough warrior part of you is at war with the vulnerable child who needs to be taken care of, and they're at war. So we say, okay, right now the warrior, the tough warrior is winning, right? It is the most dominant characteristic because all day I act like a warrior. I act tough. I hold in my own feelings, my own pain. I push it down. I don't express myself. I don't show that I need or that I want or that I'm tired. I put a brave face out to the world. I wear my armor, warrior mask, and I do battle with my own pain all day in order to make it through the day. And now my children have gone to bed and I've fallen apart because the vulnerable part, the vulnerable, scared child who needs to be taken care of is now saying, I can't do this anymore, right? So how can we get those two parts? How can we call that vulnerable child back? Maybe we say, you need to be able to express yourself more throughout the day. It's okay to need to ask for hugs, to ask for loves, to cry, maybe to write about it, to journal, to write a letter to their mom, to write a letter from their mom to them, what their mom would say if their mom was here, or if their mom is here, to actually call their mom, to allow themselves to be a child, to find a caring partner or a friend, to allow them to just be vulnerable, to say all the things that they need to say, all their fears, they're scared, to allow them to be soothed. Maybe you can find ways to self-soothe yourself. Maybe you can get a heating pad for yourself and a cup of tea and allow yourself to sit down and to just cuddle up on the couch with a movie and a bowl of soup, right? To comfort yourself, to soothe yourself, to ask others to comfort and soothe you, to write comforting letters to or from somebody to yourself, to imagine, to take that time, to feel it, to allow it to show to the world. Maybe you sit down with your children and you say, Mommy's not feeling good right now. I need some love. Come and give Mommy love. Go get Mommy a little cloth for her head. Tuck Mommy in, rub Mommy's feet, right? Whatever. I'm just saying, you allow yourself not to hide and to be vulnerable with and around some people in your life who you can trust and to help you. And if you can't, then you use letters to these imaginary or people that you want, right? And you write it out, and imagine you writing to them, having a conversation, and them giving you what you need, right? This is where you could do that inner child work and go back and do that example of like that child and what your now self would say to that child, right? Self-soothing. So maybe we can allow more of that to come back during the day and less of the warrior. We don't need to show all of the warrior, but we don't want to get rid of that warrior, because that warrior and that tough exterior has also kept us safe. It's kept us accepted in the tribe, and it's kept us allowed us to get through hard moments and to keep doing the work in spite of. And so we want that aspect to be there as well, but how can they exist together? How can we do some of one and then some of the other? How can we allow them both to get their needs met and to both to be there so that you feel more at peace? And that's when then you take the step and you put it into action. Whatever you've learned, if you go back the next day and you just go back to your old method of being, maybe by the end of the day of coping with pain, you're back in tears again after your children go to bed. Feeling very victim-like and feeling like you can never ever make any progress or make any difference. So that's, once you do this inner work and you find the realizations, you then the next day need to put it into action. So the next day, you allow yourself to be vulnerable. You allow yourself also to be the warrior. You blend them and you allow them to exist together. It's okay for both of them to have needs, but we call the suppressed and the repressed and the rejected aspect back into our being, but not at the expense of the other one. They're both allowed to be, and we practice the next day. Right? We practice what we've learned. So then we inevitably have less pain the next day. Or if it's not the next day, then it's the day after that. Right? Once your body starts to trust that you're going to allow both the vulnerable and the warrior part of you exist together, and it's okay. They both can exist. We don't have to hide one. Then inevitably you will end up feeling less inner tension, less tension. It takes so much tension to suppress an aspect of yourself that wants to rise to the surface. You don't even know it takes that much tension. And so this is the constant inner tension that keeps us, in that fight or flight mode, that keeps us sick. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I hope that you see that we can do this real-time healing work that takes into account inner child work, fragmentation work, past trauma work, emotional TMS work, and quite literally all the aspects of healing in real time as we go throughout our day, and we can start to become whole again. Ourselves, with our own awareness, with our own thoughts and feelings. We use our thoughts, we use our emotions, we use our spirit, we use all of it to become aware of what's actually going on, and then to integrate ourselves back together in real time. So this is where the real work is, and this is the fastest track to becoming whole again, and to actually using it in practice on a daily basis. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope you give it a try.